Good morning. I am Nancy Melito, and I am your worship leader for today. As we begin our service, I invite you to close your other windows or apps and devices, take a deep breath, and center yourself for worship. We begin by calling forth the ancestors and descendants. We call forth the ancestors, people who made each of us, the biological ancestors, spiritual ancestors, teachers, and guides. We call forth those who imagined and made our congregation possible, sustaining it up to this present day. We open in welcome to the ancestral people of this land, acknowledging that our church, like all of Burke, rests on the unceded territory of the Manahoac tribe of the Great Sioux Nation, seeking healing with the people of this land, whose bodies and spirits live on in their descendants, the present day members of the Monacan Indian Nation, the Patawomack Indian Tribe of Virginia, and the Piscataway Indian Nation. With this, let us open to the longings and hopes of all the descendants of all nations, that we might live for them today, honoring the ancestors as we move toward healing, so that all the descendants together shall one day know full justice. We light our chalice today. We link ourselves to the hearth fires of all peoples across time and space, reaching back to our earliest African ancestors and forward to the stovetops and cook fires of Afghanistan and New York City. Let the warmth of community and the safety of the hearth extend to all who share our light. Blessed be.
We welcome you to Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church live stream worship service. I'm Paulette Lichtman-Panzer, and I'm happy to be your worship associate today. Accotink UU Church is a welcoming and inclusive community that seeks to create a more just and compassionate world. All are welcome here in this justice-seeking, earth-healing community of faith. You are welcome no matter whom you love, no matter your death, your identity or heritage, your beliefs or background, no matter your means or abilities. You are welcome here in this religious community. If you're new to Accotink and would like to talk more about this church, please be sure to reach out to me, our minister, Rev. William Levewood, or one of today's greeters using the chat box. On our website, www.accotinkuu.org, you can check the online order of service on the worship section. While you're on the website, be sure to check our events page for upcoming virtual gatherings and other news. Whether you're a longtime member or a newcomer or something in between, we encourage you to stay for our virtual coffee hour immediately after this service. We're glad you decided to join us today.
In our time for all ages, we tackle that most iconic of Thanksgiving images here in the United States, the Cornucopia. Jen, if I may have the next slide, please. We all see this weird shaped basket of fruit around November, but where does it come from? If it's a basket of fruit celebrating the harvest, why not a round basket or some other shape that would actually hold more stuff? And why is it called a cornucopia instead of, say, weird basket thing? Once again, it all goes back to Rome. And from there, it goes back to Greece. About 10,000 years ago, the Cornucopia appears, and the story goes like this. We can have the picture of our famous goat, please. When Zeus, the king of the gods, was a baby, he had to be raised in secret on an island. His mother could not be with him, so he had divine women called nymphs for caregivers and a magical goat who fed him. This magical goat was called Amalthea, which means nourishing goddess. Our chance for our goat to be in the spotlight. And she fed the baby not only her milk, but nectar from one of her horns and ambrosia, the food of the gods, from her other horn. Well, the baby got bigger, and god babies get really strong. So one day, the toddler Zeus was playing and knocked off one of Amalthea's horns, the one that gave ambrosia. Now, that didn't really hurt the goat, but it did mean that the horn didn't give ambrosia anymore. Even better, it started giving all kinds of fruit and nuts, and it never really stopped. After all, it was a magic horn from a magic goat. So that's what a cornucopia is. But why does it have that name? Because Latin, as the young'uns say. The magic horn started in Greece, but when it got to Rome, it got its name of cornu, Latin for horn, and copia, meaning copious or plenty. Hence, its English name of horn of plenty. The whole idea of the gods providing for their worshipers is so wonderful that soon practically every divine image was shown holding a cornucopia. Here are some examples. Jen, if we could have the first slide. So here we have a replica, as it says, of an original statue of the Roman goddess Bona Fortuna, which, yes, you are right, means good fortune. And as you can see, among other things, she is shown with a cornucopia. After all, if you're having good fortune, you should have plenty of things to eat. And if we can have the next slide, please. Now, just about every divine image wound up with holding a cornucopia. Why the god of the Tiber River, who adopted Romulus and Remus, would be holding a cornucopia, I don't know, but someone decided this was a good idea. After all, he was providing for Romulus and Remus, so having plenty to eat would be a good thing. And if I could have the last statue slide, please. And this is a more modern interpretation of Bona Fortuna. Instead of fruit and nuts, we now see her with coins. So, yes, money can allow you to buy many things, lots of good things to eat. So, there we are. So, this Thanksgiving, if there's a horn of plenty on the table, you can tell everyone its pagan origins. That's either an icebreaker or a new argument waiting to happen. To quote Gwion Raven, "You are important to me. May this food keep you alive and healthy and vibrant." Sharing food is, at its heart, a sharing of life. And Thanksgiving is one of the few times when all Americans can share in a national meal, usually an over-the-top and festive one, an exercise in shared humanity. But the first Thanksgiving we're taught in school is a myth. The real history of our American Thanksgiving is much more complicated. Now, my daughter tells me that I can't bore you with names and dates. So if you're looking for the first Thanksgiving taking place not in 1621, but in 1619, it won't be here. Neither will the story of the 1621 Pilgrim Feast not even being known until Edward Winslow's letter was discovered in the 19th century. Nor the fact that Thanksgiving was not set in our calendar until 1941. Nope, not going to tell you that here. What I can tell you is that the mythical first Thanksgiving, complete with pilgrims and Native Americans, did not happen the way we're taught in grade school. The pilgrims were celebrating a good harvest, all right, but did not invite the Wampanoag to join them. The Pilgrims did, however, start shooting off their guns, which alarmed the Wampanoag to the point where they sent 90 warriors armed to the proverbial teeth to see what those losers were up to now. I can't resist. I can just see it now. The chief hearing all this and smacking his forehead saying, "Ah, you can't turn your back on this bunch for a moment. I swear they need babysitters." Luckily for all concerned, the Wampanoag realized the English were not trying to start a war. But just to make sure they didn't, the warriors stayed to eat with them. At this point, the English were down to only 5 women and about 50 men who were still alive. So 90 more people to feed was not happening. To help out, the Wampanoag ordered takeout, bringing 5 deer back for the 5 women to start cooking all over again. But at least there was now enough food. This one-time event is what the present-day Wampanoag tell us happened. Yes, they are still here and still living in the same area of Massachusetts. Which brings us to the Wampanoag, one of the native indigenous peoples sometimes referred to as the First Nations. The Wampanoag are the only reason we have pilgrims to talk about. Had they not shown the English how to survive in a land they were totally unprepared for, there would not have been a single pilgrim left alive. I'm pretty sure the Wampanoag regretted taking pity on the newcomers ever since. What followed were, as most of us know, the most awful examples of man's inhumanity to man. The Wampanoag, like most of the First Nations, were deprived of their lands, their culture, their very language, and only managed to hold on through sheer force of will. So it is that for the last 50 years, the Wampanoag have joined with other First Nations, not for Thanksgiving as we here in Burke think of it, but for a national day of mourning, either fasting or giving thanks, not for the harvest, but for the fact that they are still here after 400 years of oppression. I urge you to Google National Day of Mourning and investigate what this day means for those of the First Nations who have managed, against all odds, to survive, and who insist we face the many injustices that were and are ignored. Reading number 518 from our hymnal, from the Ojibwe. Grandfather, look at our brokenness. We know that in all creation, only the human family has strayed from the sacred way. We know that we are the ones who are divided, and we are the ones who must come back together to walk in the sacred way. Grandfather, Sacred One, teach us love, compassion, and honor, that we may heal the earth and heal each other. We are now facing the sins of our collective past and refusing to deny them. What better way then to make amends than by breaking bread together? It is not the final apology for the many wrongs we have done, but it's a start, and that's what counts. Oh, I can't leave this on a sad note. Thanks and giving are what I titled this, and we've covered the thanks part. Now on to the giving. At this time of year, giving is an integral part of the thanks holiday, and I am giving a shout out to Accotink. Many of us will give money or time or stuff, such as non-perishable food, to those in need, and that is a good thing. We must remember the others who share this nation with us and do what we can to support any number of charities for humans, animals, and the environment. But take a moment to realize that we Accotinkers are also doing a pretty good job throughout the year. On average, our church, which numbers less than 200, gives roughly $500 to our outreach causes. And even during this time of separation, we have donated over $25,000 to keep our church running. So when you have your meal this Thanksgiving, remember that I did not tell you that the Macy's parade started in 1924, or that Gimbel's in Philadelphia was actually the first one in 1920. And I did not tell you that Thanksgiving Day football started with Princeton versus Yale in 1876. No, remember, my friends, that I wish you all a wonderful day. Good health to you and yours.
Although we are far from a perfect union, our American Thanksgiving Holy Day should not be ignored. It is, at its heart, a coming together of people in a shared meal, the importance of which cannot be diminished by the politics of the present or the past. We would be a nation poorer in spirit and the virtue of caring for others in our common bond of humanity if we did not, at least for one day a year, set aside our differences and take the time to eat together, the earliest and most human way of saying, you are important to me. May this food keep you alive and healthy and vibrant. May we all share in that sentiment. Though we will extinguish our chalice flame, we carry within us what we kindled, the light of inspiration, the warmth of compassion, the fire of commitment. May we bring these gifts into our lives and share them radiantly out in the world. I invite you to join me now in our community blessing with these words of David Bumbaugh. This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences and beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together in spite of time, death, and the space between the stars. We pause now in silent witness to that unity.
Thanksgiving in 2021 is many things to many people, but it is always about being thankful for what we have and about giving. May your table be filled with good things to eat, and may your giving be from a full heart. Blessings of good health to one and all. Happy Thanksgiving.